Hey guys, welcome back. It's been a while. And this is super awkward. Like when I make videos all the time, making videos is not weird or difficult or anything. But when I haven't made one for a while, I am super self-conscious because it is kind of a weird experience. If you're not used to making videos for YouTube, it's a strange thing. I'm sitting in this room talking to you guys, but in reality, I'm just talking to myself. There's nobody around, it's just me in here. Like whatever time it is. It is 10:22 in the evening. Rise of Skywalker premiered tonight, and I won't be surprised if I don't get calls in the middle of this thing for like, "Hey man, you should have seen the movie. It's great." I didn't go to the premiere, wasn't invited, but I'm going to a screening tomorrow. But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to talk about some progress on the 3D C3PO files that I started ages ago. I haven't had time to touch them, but I just finished a big old project and my time is opened up a little bit. Still have work to do, but I got a little time for myself, and I was like, I can get back to work on 3PO. So I was like, okay, where do I start? What do I need to do first here? And one of the things that I really wanted to figure out was what the scale difference is between the C3PO parts and the real parts, because I feel like it's a step that needs to happen before I can really dive in and like get those files right. Now, if you've never done molding and casting, when you take a casting of a part, when you take a mold of something and recast it, there's typically a little bit of shrink just due to the materials that you use. Like if you use polyester resin, if you like making fiberglass or urethane resin, when those materials cure, they shrink a little bit. Sometimes it's barely noticeable. But when you start to get 2, 3, 4 generations away from a real part, it can be a big amount of shrink. It's very noticeable next to the real part when you're multiple generations away. Now, the Don Post statue, excuse me, Don Post statue was made in such a way that they were basically running the parts with a hot mold, meaning that they would, lay up fiberglass for a part, and as fiberglass catalyzes, as it cures, it creates heat, which heats up the mold. And they would run the parts. Once they were cured enough to remove, they would take the part out, and now the mold is still warm from the previous casting. So they would immediately brush in and start doing the next fiberglass part in the same mold. And when the mold is warm, it means the next fiberglass part is going to catalyze faster. It's going to just kick off much quicker, which means you can do the next part faster. So it makes the process very fast. But when a part does that quickly, it can do weird stuff to the mold, make the mold do strange things, and it also typically will make the resin shrink shrink more. Like the amount of shrink will be greater if the stuff cures faster. That's not 100% of the time, depending on materials. There are materials that don't shrink that much, but polyester resin does shrink quite a bit. So the reason I explain all that is that the Don Post statue, if you see it compared to a real suit, there's a very noticeable amount of shrink, especially in the head. It's really noticeable and it looks weird. So one of the things I was trying to fix is that. So I was like, where do I start? And I was like, I should start with the head. And my C3PO, the face that I've worn on my C3PO forever, is very accurate. It's probably one of the closest to a screen-used face that I've ever seen on a fan-made suit. Most everybody else's fan-made suits have the heads a bit smaller. And the head that I've been using has a back of a head from a different helmet that I bought a long time ago. And this back is actually quite a bit smaller than it should be. So the face that I'm wearing has been like squished to fit in here. So I was like, you know what? I will make a new back of a head for my existing face. And when I say existing, I also mean my other castings. I have a mold, I can make these. So I have other castings of the face. I've got back of a head that's accurate. But I was like, I'll start with the back of the head, make a 3D printable part. And once that mates up well with my face for my 3PO's face, I'll know that the scale of the back of the head is much closer to screen used. So, long-winded, but I feel like the explanation is necessary. So here's my gold C3PO face that any picture you've seen me in with C3PO, I'm almost almost guaranteed to be wearing this face. I took the Don Post files that I've been working on already a little bit, but I hadn't scaled anything. I kind of started to break them up to make a helmet, but I had put it off because the scale issue. So I printed one as is to see how it lined up, and it fits. It fits on here, and it is actually slightly bigger than my existing, the back of the head that I've been using, which is good. However, it is not quite up to scale. But because I have this face, which is beautiful, the scale is right, everything's very accurate, I was able to take some points off of this and figure out, based on where they line up with this helmet, how much I need to adjust the full helmet file, the full Don Post helmet scan, to get the accuracy a little bit better, scale-wise. This is long-winded, but if I don't talk about it like this, people are going to ask me questions. So I scaled a version to what I think is the correct amount of, scaling up, and then it mates up almost perfectly with one of my fiberglass faces. Now, I think that the issue with it not lining up quite perfectly has to do with the lip that I have on my helmet is slightly different than what I've done in the 3D file. But otherwise, everything is lining up about where it's supposed to, which is very good. So once I'm happy with this, I'm going to start. I've scaled the whole head, so the face is also now scaled digitally, not this one, the digital version. I'm going to print one of those soon, make sure it all mates up really well. And the first one's going to be kind of like a sacrificial print because I'm going to use it to compare to one of my very accurate faces and figure out what really needs to be adjusted in the file. Because looking at it on the computer is good. There's things I can definitely see, but when you see it in person, especially next to something that looks really nice, it'll be very obvious what needs to change. So that'll open up all that, and I can start finally getting the head figured out completely. And once I get that, I still plan on posting them up on Thingiverse once they're done. So scale-wise, it will be much closer to a real helmet, screen use helmet. And I think that a lot of the 3PO builders out there that are like wearing this as a costume are going to find it a pleasant upgrade, because most of the ones that I've seen are slightly too small. Aside from people who've just taken the whole helmet and just scaled it randomly to fit. But I want it to look accurate and be more roomy than the Don Post copies. And now that, excuse me, well, I was supposed to be dramatic and I just choked. And now that I've worked out kind of what that scale number is, I'm going to apply that scale number to the rest of the costume parts as I work and get those all scaled up as well, because everything's a little bit small. And so all the files that have been made based on those Don Post scans are all kind of small compared to the real suit parts. The one thing I'm not going to try to mess with in ZBrush from the scans are the arms. And the reason is I could just do a way better job just remodeling them. And I've already remodeled the arms multiple times in different versions, and I've got it so close now, like they're really close to the final version. I think I'm going to be done with them soon. And back to the scale issue. So these are my fiberglass 3PO arms that I've worn for years. I bought these aren't something I made. I purchased these, and like in 2012 they had an exhibit at the Science Center in Orlando. And I wore my 3PO costume to this Star Wars exhibit, and I stood like 18 inches away from a real costume. A real 3PO costume was just on the other side of the glass. And back then I hadn't learned as much. Now I know way more about those costumes, but at the time I didn't know. But I could tell immediately, standing there, I'm looking at my arms in the suit and looking over, and I could see just as clear as crystal that the arms on the real suit were definitely bigger than the arms that I was wearing. And I was like, those arms look way more comfortable than what I've got on right now, which are these. So these were, recasts of Don Post recasts, so they're related, and it goes back to the whole thing I was talking about earlier with the parts shrinking. So who knows how many generations away these are from the real ones, but they're quite a bit smaller. And then the digital files of the Dawn post arms, I took those scans and I put them in to a ZBrush file with a scan that I have of another droid, another protocol droid, which has the same type of arms as 3PO. As far as it's a little bit different detail, but the underlying architecture of the arm is the same. So the tubes here and the tubes here that make up the arm are the same as 3PO. And when I took the Dawn post scans and just put them in on top of the other scans, I could pretty much fit the Dawn post arms inside the scans for this other droid, which are the same size as a real 3PO suit. So it was just, okay, these Dawn post things are not even close to the proper scale. So all the arms that have been made that are based on those Dawn post arms are way, way off, like just real bad. And I could see it when I saw them, but I didn't have the exact measurements. But recently I was able to get measurements off of a real set of droid arms on top of the scan data that I was just talking about. And the arms that I've been working on, which these are some of the 3D arms that I showed a while back, but this is a slightly older version, but they're really close. These are very close. I made a very slight adjustment to the upper arm. It's almost not noticeable at all. It's very small. And I'm getting these worked out with the thickness of the arms. This is what I've tried to make this video like 5 times. I keep getting lost around this part because there's too many angles to go with. So we're going to start this right now. So the thickness of the walls of the arms is something I'm trying to work out. This was when I started. Printer ran out of filament, and this printer doesn't have a switch, so it just kept printing with no filament because I'm a genius. But I could tell when it stopped that it was probably a little bit thin. This is 1.2 millimeter thick walls, which is actually pretty close to how thick the metal is on the real screen used arms. Then I thickened it a little bit. This is a 1.6 millimeter thick, which doesn't seem like a big difference, but it makes a big difference in the amount of material that's in here. So putting your arm in one this thick versus this thick is surprisingly big difference. So I think I'm going to do the next version. I'm going to split the difference. 1.4 millimeters thick. That'll be the new upgraded upper arm. And then I've got a couple upgrades to make to this lower arm, real subtle stuff. And then these files will be ready to share on Thingiverse. Again, sorry this is totally rambly, but I nerd out on this stuff really hard, and I feel like there's a lot of little details to cover. Another thing I've done is I've upgraded these arm pistons so that if you just use them right off of a standard FDM printer, they will be functional in a way that will hold up well and not break very easily. The previous version I never had one break, but they are a lot more frail in some areas. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to change the design. It's going to look almost identical, but it's going to function better and it's going to last longer. So, just it'll be a sturdier piece. I'm going to actually set up a pair of these arms to wear in a few days to an event, and then I'll get to test them. If they break, then I'll know that they're terrible. But I think they're going to work fine. But anyway, I'm losing steam on this video, and I wanted to show you guys that I've been making some progress. Again, I'm going to take the scale factor that I've been using for this helmet, apply it to the rest of the suit. I'm going to start working on the legs soon. And I'm trying between now, which is December 16th, and the new year to get either the arms or the head posted to Thingiverse. I think I'm going to have the arms done first. I might even get them both done. But yeah, progress, finally. It's been a long, long, long time. People ask me constantly, like, how's the 3PO thing going? How are the 3PO scans? And I haven't been able to touch them forever. So I'm back on them. Pretty excited where they're going. And I just wanted to share the updates and like why I've made some of the choices I've made. And, hopefully it's helpful to people. I don't know. If you're looking for 3PO files immediately, I would definitely suggest Jesse M's files. I'll put a link to his stuff in my his Thingiverse page down in the description below. As long as it's still there, haven't looked in a while. I'm sure it is. Check his stuff for the time being, and then I'll have my stuff posted. Hopefully some of it starting to trickle up there sooner rather than later. And again, not meant to like offset Jesse's work by any chance. It's just sort of two different routes to go. You pick whichever one fits you best or whichever one you think looks the best, and go from there. But anyway, It was just an update, just to fill you in because I've been like vanished for a while. Yeah, back to that whole thing. Making videos is awkward when I haven't done them in a long time. Jeez. But yeah, that's it. That's the only update. I'll probably do a review of Star Wars tomorrow after I get done with the movie. I'm seeing it tomorrow evening, so I'll probably come home and make a review, tell you guys what I thought. Hopefully JJ saves it. We'll see. But anyway, I'm gonna get back to it. I gotta go figure out what number video this is and the 3D printed C3PO build. I can't even remember. But anyway, thanks guys for stopping by. I'll see you soon. Bye.